This is Praise the Buddha. And the melody is Amazing Grace. Everybody knows this song already, right? So here we go. Upon the earth. No, you have to put your palms together. If you really want to put your palms together, I'm impressed. But the Buddha's probably okay. This is not official. So, but that's 诚心的不得了. Wow. Upon the earth below the sky, the Buddha has no peer. In 10 directions everywhere, he is beyond compare. He's gone beyond duality. He's never born again. With wisdom bright he blesses me. He knows my joy and pain. He walked the noble middle way with strength and purity. In dark of night and light of day, his kindness touches me. He's not divine, but he's away. He's neither come nor gone. I find him in each blade of grass. He is the wisdom sun. Here's a guitar break. Okay, last verse. I've searched around this whole wide world, and now I can declare you'll never find a wiser one than Buddha anywhere. Last two lines. You'll never find a wiser one than Buddha anywhere. Part of the retreat is music, and we've got something special planned, which is we printed out Jin Chuan Shi's initiative to print out the Song of Enlightenment, Zheng Dao Ge, which now is, it's still a work in progress, but it's mature enough to be able to share with everybody. And one of the sources of the Zheng Dao Ge Song of Enlightenment appears in our sutra. So we've got an account from the Tang Dynasty about the person who put this together. And I think people are going to like it. I hope so. It's for the first time, it's singable in English. Never before have we had it in a place where we could sing it. So that's something to offer. Likewise, I brought my original Buddhist Text Translation Society publication of the Sixth Patriarch Sutra. This is BTTS's first book from 1971. And this is the Sixth Patriarch's Dharma Jewel Platform Sutra and Commentary by Tripitaka Master Hsuanhua, published by Gold Mountain Temple Sino-American Buddhist Association. That's us. Now we're City of 10,000 Buddhas Dharma Realm Buddhist Association. This is before we changed our name. This is quite an heirloom for me because here's got it's fragile. Take the dust cover off and it's this nice red sutra with gold, right? This was our first book, and I received my copy while I was still a grad student at Berkeley, and this text helped me come across the bay and decide to shave my head and leave home with Master Hua. So it's really homemade. Oh, is it funky? It's like done with all sorts of design conventions that we would not do today, but we were doing it they did it themselves. This is before. I took refuge in 73, so this is published 2 years before I got there. But this is our first BTTS publication, Buddhist Text Translation Society. And it's got the very same content as the successive 4 more versions of the Sixth Patriarch that we published. So the one that we're going to be working with intensely, the one that you have in front of you, is this brand new gadget. And this has been out now for what, 3 years? This is 2014, so 4 years. And this has the text but not Shifu's commentary. It has Marty's introduction, Professor Verhoeven, and you're encouraged to take a look at that. And it is bilingual. When you get to the back, what have you got? You've got a picture of the Sixth Patriarch, but then you've got Zhongwen. So this is a bilingual text, right? 后边有中文，要翻到135页，135不多少？133、133，这个有中文的哈。Okay, so that's what we're going to be working with, and the Sangha, myself, Dharma Master Jin Chuan, Jin He, and Dharma Master Jin Zhong, and Jin Ro, and Jin Ansher, the 6 of us, are going to be pulling themes out of the sutra, probably in the evening. I think we'll do text in the morning, looks like, and then themes in the evening. That's our best wisdom at the moment. We're still deciding how to present this this text to you, but we want the sutra to come alive, and I'm confident that we can do that. So, with that in mind, can I invite everybody, if you will please, to, oh, and in the evening, by the way, we'll do special Qingfa. We'll do Dharma requests in the evening. Before we begin, can we all put our palms together? And I'll give you a line and you give it back. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha.
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 Supreme and wondrous Dharma. subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a million eons. But now we see and hear it, and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. May it be so. Okay. Do you know, yeah, who said may it be so? Live long and prosper. Maybe. So, terrific. You know who wrote that? You know who came up with that first? 无上甚深微妙法. Everybody know? Yeah. Good old 5 points to Connie. That was the Chinese empress. Not a patriarch, not a monk, but the empress of China, Wu Zetian, from the Tang Dynasty, who was apparently a terrible person. She was just, a baby killer, and but she was also a devout. Being a Chinese empress of China, you've got pretty special conditions, and she had Foyan. She had Buddha affinities, and so she came up with that. Her respect for the Dharma was so strong, and to this day we use that as we go. All right, let's see. Could you all please turn to, well, here, just look at me. The Buddha looks just like him, followed by Bodhidharma. There are no page numbers. That's why I want you to. Here's the first patriarch in China. Indian monk, came to China, made quite an impression, meditated for 9 years in solitude, passed the Dharma on to Master Hui Ke. He's the guy who chopped his arm off. Kids, don't try this at home. To Master Seng Can, the third patriarch, the one who wrote the Xin Ming, the inscription, the epitaph on awakening on faith in the mind. To Master Dao Xin, of whom not a lot is known, mostly because he didn't leave much writing. To one of the heroes of our story today, Master Hongren of Yellow Plums, Huangmei, in Hebei. And let's turn one more over to Huineng Dashi, the one able and wise, who's our hero of our story. Okay. We're going to turn now to page 7. Okay. I'm going to invite everybody to join me to read aloud down to the bottom of page 7 from the top. We're going to say this is our first time to read aloud, and this is one of the fun parts about being in a community to study the Dharma is you get a chance to read in unison. And if you think about it, that's a human activity that nobody does much. When was the last time you read aloud with a group in unison? It's just not something that we do. But it's very pleasant as we listen to each other. Not only do we want to speak in a pleasant voice, and do let your voice out. It's good to let the chi come out. But it's great to be able to hear the person to your left, the person to your right, the one behind you, in front of you. So you want to modulate your volume so that you can hear others, and pay attention to the grammar. I said it wrong. Pay attention to the punctuation. The punctuation in the sentence and the white space is there to tell you what to do with your breath. Okay? So if we say, chapter 1, where it all began, that's obvious. But look, once, comma. See that comma? The comma is there to say pause. So if you go once when the master, everyone else is going once, and then your voice is when the, So the punctuation is for group reading. It's to help you regulate your breath. So, for example, we go once when the master arrived at Baolin, and then we got the brackets. So we'll read the brackets. Jewel Wood, comma, inhale. The prefect of Shao province, comma, Wei, comma, whose given name was Qu, comma, right? So those are all pauses, brief pauses, okay? And as we go through, we'll do that. We'll read together. And as we get down to the great master said to the assembly, colon, white space, big breath, good and wise friends, comma, Bodhi, right? So let's try that. Let's see how it sounds. This is, the Chinese call this experience 异口同音, different mouths but one voice, different mouths but unison, okay? Here we go, ready? Chapter 1, where it all began. Pause, ready? Once, when the master arrived at Baolin, Jewel Wood, comma, the prefect of Shao province, Wei, whose given name was Qu, along with other local officials, climbed the mountain to invite the master to come to the city so that he might give Dharma instructions to the people assembled in the lecture hall of Great Brahma Monastery, Da Fan Si, period, breath. After the master was formally seated, the prefect, along with more than 30 other officials, more than 30 Confucian scholars, over 1,000 bhikshus, bhikshunis, Taoists, and laity, all bowed simultaneously to him and requested instruction on the essentials of the Dharma, period, and white space. Here we go. The great master said to the assembly, and now we all get to sound like the Sixth Patriarch, right? We're going to be speaking in his voice. So how do you suppose he sounded? No. He was speaking Chinese. Okay, so good and wise friends. The Sixth Patriarch speaks English here at Buddha Root Farm in 2018. Ready? Here we go. Good and wise friends, Bodhi is just the purity of your own nature. Attend only to this, and you will straightaway achieve Buddhahood. Good and wise friends, listen. This is the story of how I came to realize the Dharma. My worthy father was a native of Fanyang, but he was banished to Xin province in Lingnan, where his status was reduced to a commoner. Unfortunately for me, my father died early, and as a result, my widowed mother and I relocated to Nanhai, where we were so miserably poor that I sold firewood in the marketplace for a living, period. Once, a customer bought firewood and had me deliver it to his inn, where he took the wood and paid me. On my way out the gate, I noticed someone reciting a sutra. As soon as I heard the words of the sutra, my mind immediately awakened. Okay, stop. Good. Thank you. That's fun. Okay, what has happened? We've got a flashback. This is a flashback. If this were a movie, we've all seen this. The camera gives you the past, and there's a dissolve, and the early story, the prequel, is being told so that you can understand what's going on in the main story. So, the Sixth Patriarch is now already the Patriarch. He's already a monk, and he's acknowledged and recognized, and he's down in the south. This happened in southern China, a place called Nanhua Monastery, Baolin, Jeweled Wood. It's down in Guangzhou or Fujian? Guangzhou吧. 这个 Guangdong, yeah, it's in the province of Guangdong, down in southern China. So he's, now everybody knows who he is. He's no longer in hiding, which is an interesting story. And he's about to speak Dharma. Look at the our narrator, the person who's telling the story, is a monk called Fahai, Ocean of Dharma, and he's reporting what he saw. Okay, what happened was somebody who the Sixth Patriarch didn't want to ignore came to request Dharma. It was the local politician. The local, who was he? He's a prefect, whatever a prefect is, and his name was Wei. And Wei Qu, along with others, probably they rode up, maybe they had a driver with horses, and they formally requested, would you please come out and speak to us? So he agreed, came out. What did he do? He went to Dafan Si, the great Brahma monastery, and took his seat. And then there was a Dharma request. Look, 30 other officials, the prefect along with 30 other officials. It would be as if the mayor of Reedsport came up to the mountain to request Dharma. Probably a woman these days. She probably came up, and you can see her bowing, and she's got her chief of police, and she's got her, the tax assessor, and maybe the dog catcher, and they're all coming just with looking very sincere and happy to be noticed and recognized and bowing. Who's there? 30 Confucian scholars, and then lots of Sangha members, including, notice they mentioned the Taoists are there. Now this is a little bit of interfaith in the Tang Dynasty. And the laity, they're all bowing together. Boy, oh boy, what a scene, right? They want to hear the Dharma, and it's like, whoa, everybody's sincerely asking this one person to speak. Now my question is, how could they hear him? It's just one cable, right? Man, mics won't work, Dharma Master. Fix the cable. Oh, the mics work great, Dharma Master. So, so now the Sixth Patriarch in the Tang Dynasty is heard over 1,000 people. How is that possible? I don't know. Maybe the acoustics are probably really good. I wonder, seriously, how did they solve that problem of having, before amplification, before microphones? How did the voice go out? How did the Buddha? Well, the Buddha, probably special, but so he is going to talk now, and he says, he gives it all away in the first sentence. After that first sentence, you can all go home. He says, Bodhi is the purity of your own nature. That's it. He said, that's the Sixth Patriarch's Dharma. That's it. So what is that? You want to know about enlightenment? You want to know how to go to the head of the class? You want to know how to graduate on the first day of class? Just purify your nature. Okay? Sounds so simple, but man, in that is all the confusion, is all the sweat, is all the hassle. Purifying your own nature. And that is also, if you think about it, I was raised Christian. I was raised Protestant in Toledo, Ohio. Anybody else get baptized at some point? Yeah, okay, baptized. Yes, good, yeah. Anybody from Europe, anybody from Italy, they've been baptized, for sure, absolutely. And it's an important part of bringing your child into the world as you take them in front of the priest or the minister and put that water in your head. That's how the story works, is you put yourself in relationship to a supreme being. So in that religious story, which is the dominant religious story in the world, the power is not in the purity of your nature, the power is out there. And that's the story. For who? For Jews, for Catholics, for Protestants, for Muslims, for Hindus, and every other religion in the world that is theistic, that has a theos in there, that has a God in there. The power is outside. So here is a religious teacher who says, good and wise Friends, it's not out there, it's in here. So, I just want to point that out. That's such a simple sentence. Bodhi is the purity of your nature. Most of the people in the world would say, I beg your pardon. You can't work your way to heaven. You're lost if you think purity of your own nature is what you're looking for. You're in fact not going to heaven, you're going somewhere else, you know. So, big deal. That first sentence is a really, really big deal if you step outside the Buddhist world and say, you know, what are you all doing up there sitting like meditating like bumps on a log? What are you going to get out of that? They say, right? What do you expect to get out of that? Well, Bodhi, which is awakening, Jiao Dao, awakening to the way, happiness, the ability to bounce from any circumstance that the world throws at me, right? If I have awakened to my nature, if I understand Bodhi, nothing upsets me. It's like everything's okay, no problem, as Master Hua would say, for real. Not just a saying, for real. Why? Because you see the flow of night and day, of male and female, of good and evil. Nothing confuses you, right? So if you're awake to Bodhi, the world is clear, the palm of your hand, because you're not confused. The covers have been pulled off your nature. So big deal, one sentence, big deal, whoa. You know, and the rest of the world says, oh, but you must put yourself in relationship to the priests, who will then interpret for you the words of the Supreme, the words of the Lord. Well, you don't need priests, and you don't need the Lord if this makes sense. Wow, huge. You can take the cathedrals, you can take the money, you can take the ring, Il Pape, who we love, our Holy Father, his ring, you kiss it, right? Because why? That's the path to get to where God might allow you to come to heaven with his grace. Okay, now, I don't want to sound harsh about other religions. I was raised Christian, and there's a lot of good human beings there. But all that structure of theistic religions is a story. A good story, you know, a lot of blood spilled because of that story, but it's a good story. And the Sixth Patriarch with 5 words, purity of your own nature, says, I got another story. There's another story at work. Here it is. Pay attention. Different story. So if you follow this and then get to work like, I'm going to purify my own nature on Turtle Mountain at Buddha Farm, that's another story. So, just want to show you the stakes involved here. This is a big deal. This could get your head severed from your body at the wrong time in the wrong place, right? They will happily cut your head off if you say, actually, I'm not looking for salvation through his grace or her grace, right? Oh, well, you're a disbeliever. The world is better without you. You know, oops. That's violence done in service to a story. It's a story. Which one is ultimately true? Well, which story did you hear first? You know, big deal here, right? So I want people to understand how radical this is. In 2018, interestingly enough, this is people who are watching the rise of the mindfulness movement. Okay, mindfulness, right? Boy, you cannot overestimate the strength of mindfulness now. It's as hot as McDonald's burgers, you know. It's a big deal. This is worldwide. Mindfulness everywhere. People want, why? Organically, we're saying, I'm not so much invested in that story. I think maybe I'm going too fast. The world is too confusing these days. There's just too much input. It may well be a reaction to smartphones. maybe the rise of smartphones and the rise of mindfulness are keeping pace. Just too many apps, right? And too many, you have to trust it. Because used to be, you could kind of, when it was computers, back in the days of the Macintosh, modular unit that I started out with a Mac, not the MacBook, not the Mac Plus, but the next one, Mac Classic. My first was a Mac Classic. The bargain model, that you could afford. And it was kind of cute, and you could kind of work with it, and you explained pretty soon the computer was smarter than you were, and it just went. And now apps, you trust when you say click on PayPal that it's going to do it right, don't you? What if PayPal decides to, subtract too much? Imagine. I think the rise of mindfulness may be because we have burned out on smart, and we're going to simple. Because the experience of mindfulness is, how do you get simpler than, in, out, rising, falling? Could be. I've never actually thought that before. Maybe the popularity of mindfulness is because this is just overwhelming now. And it's in your pocket, and it's going to be implanted in your skin pretty quickly. Right? Biochips is what's next, probably. Okay, so Sixth Patriarch's telling another story here. Boy, oh boy, he's saying purify your mind. That's where you want to look. Radically different. Okay, so he says, attend to this and straight away you will achieve Buddhahood. Well, I wish. That's PR on his part, but he wants people to, it's not so fast, Dharma Master. We like chocolate too much to actually set it down, so it's not quite. Wait till we can set chocolate down, and then ice cream. There's ice cream in the way, Dharma Master. So, good and wise friends, listen. This is the story of how I came to realize the Dharma. Flashback. First thing he does is he flashes us back where I came from. Okay, so what does he say? He says, boy, what a story. My father, worthy father, native of Fanyang. I don't know, anybody know where Fanyang is? Maybe Fanyang doesn't exist anymore. Maybe that town name? 在哪里啊？是吗？北部？湖北？ Okay, 知道有这么一个地方, huh? Okay. So, it's a place in Hubei. Oh, is there a map?
Map in the front.
Oh, there's a map. A map.
It's a 0 page. The page right before the pictures of the...
You can't count Roman numerals there, Jin Chuan, here?
No, there's actually no...
Oh, there's no, okay.
Actually, no.
All these physicists don't know. Yeah. Okay, yeah, turn back. It's too literary, yeah. Okay, Fanyang, is he there? Okay, so anyway, Fanyang is, what's the story? This is an amazing, sad story of a scholar who was banished. That's a real sad story. And I think at the contemporary, our current, by the way, we don't mention the T word here on the mountain. You mention the T word, you put $5 in the kitty. All right? The one that's followed by RUMP. We don't mention that name. Mention the name and pretty soon, all the air goes out of the room. So, but, can you imagine? Around the White House now, it's kind of like a revolving door. People are leaving the White House faster than they're coming into the White House. And it's the same story, which is what? You get banished as an official. Oh, in traditional classical China, to be able to become 做官, to be able to become an official public servant, to serve the government, was the peak. If you made it to Guanwei, to a Zhiwei in the government, wow. It was, that was what life was about. All of raising a kid. You pull a kid off the plow. He's not going to be out there in the fields raising food. You put him to school. Him, not her, right? Him. You put him to school, and that means one economic unit is no longer raising food for you, but now he's learning. And he studies and studies, and he takes the exam, and he passes, and that's the local exam. And then he takes another exam, and he passes. Now he's at the provincial. No, he raises up into the government. And with every step, the family, the entire family, branches of the family all raise in status, and they wear different clothes, and they have different titles, and people are in the village, they eat better food, Everything was all built around 做官, 当官, 当官. So, okay, then what? Banished, humiliated, insulted, right? Exiled. Banished means you pack it up, you put it on a cart, and you run, and you're lucky if you keep your head. You're lucky if you're not killed, and if you're killed, generations go with you, right? They kill not just you, but suddenly the assassins show up outside your door, and there's blood on the floor. Ooh, what happened? Well, somebody wrote a character wrong in their memorial to the emperor, or even to the local bully, the local landlord. The stupidest stuff, sometimes jealousy. You didn't do anything wrong, but somebody was jealous, and they had power, and you got banished. You had to pack it up and leave. Not only leave Fanyang, but he had to relocate to the south, down to barbarian land. You had to leave Washington and go down to Texas. You got sent out to Plano. You got sent down to Plano, Texas, right? Anybody from Plano who I'm insulting? But so you got sent out to the boondocks, right? Where, oh boy, not only did you not get to wear the fancy hat and eat nice food, you probably had to learn how to plow. You had to learn how to grow rice. And so that's the story. There's heartbreak and tragedy and grief in this. He says he was banished to Xin province in Lingnan, where his state was reduced to a commoner. He had gone from official to commoner. And imagine, and okay, so we're talking about the guy himself. What about his wife? Right? Who's like, I sure liked having the other ladies in the village, smile at me and watch my expression to see if I was pleased with them. Now, I'm going to make sure my kid doesn't fall off the wagon as we drive south. Grab all the kids, because we're running and we got nothing. What a story, right? And this happens so many times. Imagine in the White House. Suddenly, yesterday you were director of communications. Today you're an article in the New York Times, and you're, back home, living in mom's basement or something. So his dad was humiliated. His dad was sent away for whatever insult he gave to somebody more powerful than he was, and a word to the local governor, and he was gone. So mom has to pack up the family, and the kids are like, where are we going? And we're down the road. So that's what happened. He's now a commoner. He lost it all because of politics. And then guess what? Dad did not bounce. Dad didn't recover. He died. Probably couldn't take it, right? Either that, or he had been trained to read from childhood. He had no saleable skills, right? He probably couldn't earn a buck. And maybe his wife didn't forgive him for what happened. It's, she has, what a big heart the wife has to have to allow this disaster to happen, and to survive. So he didn't. The Sixth Patriarch's dad did not survive. Interesting, huh? You can imagine, fill in the blanks, and you can think, what was that like? Okay, what's the equivalent? Now, Silicon Valley, pink slip. Oops. Yesterday you were a Sun Microsystems mid-level manager. Today you're driving around looking for your options, listening to NPR on the radio in your car that you're probably going to have to sell your SUV and go back to a Volkswagen or something, you know. Because why? Pink slipped. Everybody know what it means to get pink slipped? We know that, don't we, these days? Yeah. Fired. No job. You were a promising hire before. I remember before the internet bubble, man, there were days, this is in the 80s, when if you graduated from Evans Hall at UC Berkeley with a computer science degree, you know what? You had messages on your answering machine. Remember the days of answering machines? You had messages on your answering machine, guys knocking on the door with the keys to a BMW parked at the curb, saying, come work for Adobe. Come work for Microsoft. No joke. Anybody have that experience? I'm not exaggerating, right? Jerry? Right? True. Is that an exaggeration?
Yeah, when I was at the company, we hire people, we give them motorcycle.
You gave him a motorcycle? A big one. Yeah. How about that? That was before. That was when, okay, those are the days in the 80s. The tech magazines in Silicon Valley, what was mine? Wired was one of them. I can't think of the other ones. They were like 230 pages per issue, 4-color glossy advertisements when Silicon Valley was hiring. Oh boy, headhunters. If you had computer science skills, you were valuable and you were wanted, and they would give you a motorcycle to sign, just to come and join. Different times, huh? And then the internet bubble burst, and we have people with college degrees sleeping under the freeway, right? And walking behind Safeway to see what was dumped in the dumpster so they can eat. Times change. So that's the impermanence, huh? So, unfortunately for me, my father died early, and my widowed mother and I relocated to Nanhai, where we were so poor that the kid became the breadwinner. The kid had to go onto the mountains to pick up the wood that he could find, to bring it down to see if anybody was interested in wood. How much money is he going to get by peddling wood door to door? Reality. Real world, right? I think that's why we love this sutra, is this real world sutra. And he walked around with what he could carry on his back in a bundle, firewood. Anybody buying firewood today? I'll sell you some. How much money is pennies, little copper coins, he going to get for selling firewood? Okay, so now, this is the first time, and he's talking about himself. This is the first time, but what happened? The first time we're hearing from him about his being unusual, something special about him, and the Buddhist word for it is shangen. This young man had wholesome qualities in his nature. He had Fo-Yuan, affinities with the Buddha. So that, what happened? Turning point in the story. And this comes back later. A customer bought firewood and had me deliver it to his inn, where he took the wood and paid me. So, there's a jiulou in town. There's a place for travelers to rent a room, an inn, called a hotel, motel, right? So, luckily, the young man with the bundle of wood on his back and the insects crawling down his collar, because where there's wood, there's bugs, and the chips falling, and he's covered with sawdust, and it's sweaty. It's in the south. He meets the guy in the marketplace who says, oh yeah, send it to the Jiu Dian, and go into the back. And that's where we keep the bin for the firewood. So the Sixth Patriarch, as a young man, takes the wood in the back and puts it in the bin, gets the money, and then the moment happens. What? On my way out the gate, I noticed somebody reciting a sutra, and as soon as I heard the words of the sutra, my mind immediately awakened. Okay, what did he hear? There was somebody in the inn, some guest, who was a Buddhist. What luck, right? There was somebody there who was what? Songjing. He had the wooden fish. He's going tap, 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 tap. Right? Ying wu so zhu er sheng qi xin. Probably it was the Vajra Sutra. And the person had the habit of reciting the Vajra Sutra. He heard it out the window, or he heard it out the door as he was walking by, and that's all it took. Okay, one hearing of a sutra. I asked the person what sutra, we've gone past our reading. So that's the moment, that's the big turning point of this sutra, was he had shangan, he had roots of goodness so profound that one hearing of somebody else reciting the sutra made a big difference, opened his mind. Okay, how many people grew up hearing a relative of yours reciting a sutra at home? Anybody have that experience? Wow, look, whoa, oh boy. What language are they speaking? Chinese, Vietnamese, right? Not English. Not yet. Okay, somebody, yeah, okay, good. So, interesting, huh? The habit of songjing plants seeds that you don't know when they're going to come ripe. Now, if you had to like stake your life on explaining this, you could say, well, it's because this young man, the future Sixth Patriarch, had affinities from the past. You could say, oh, it's because this is not the first time he'd done this, or he'd been a monk before, or he was a bodhisattva who made vows, and the sutra was familiar to him in the past. You could say something like that. But the dramatic moment, nonetheless, happens. He's going out the gate of the inn where he's delivered wood, and he hears somebody, maybe on the second floor, tap, 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 with a wooden fish, and his mind, he goes, ooh, whoa. He hears that sutra, and something profound happens. Okay, now, page 8. Ready? All together, can we read? Ready? Here we go. We're going to read down to we'll read one more page. Okay, here we go. Ready? I asked the person what sutra he was reciting. He replied, the Diamond Sutra. I then asked him, where are you from? Where did you get this sutra? He said, I come from Eastern Chan, Dongchan Monastery in Qi Province, Huangmei County, period. There the fifth patriarch, the great master Hong Ren, resides and teaches over 1,000 disciples. I went there, bowed in respect, and encountered this sutra. The great master constantly exhorts both the Sangha and laity to simply cultivate according to the Diamond Sutra, so that they may by themselves see their essential nature and directly realize Buddhahood. Okay, period. Ready? Here we go. After hearing this, and because of a karmic connection from the past, I was given 10 ounces of silver by another customer so I could provide my elderly mother with food and clothing. He told me to go right to Huangmei and bow to the fifth patriarch. Continue. After making the necessary arrangements for my mother's welfare, I left right away and arrived in Huangmei in about 30 days. There I bowed to the fifth patriarch, who asked me, where are you from? What do you seek? I replied, your disciple is a commoner from Xin province in Lingnan. I come from afar to bow to you and seek only to be a Buddha. nothing else. The patriarch said, if you are from Lingnan, you must be a barbarian. How could you become a Buddha? I replied, people may come from the north or come from the south, but fundamentally there is no north or south to the Buddha nature. The body of a barbarian and that of a high master are not the same, but what difference is there in our Buddha nature? Good, thank you. Good. Let's see here. Okay, one more paragraph, page 9. Okay, one more, here we go. The fifth patriarch wished to continue the conversation, but noticing that his disciples were gathering all around, he told me to follow the group off to work. I said, Hui Neng wants to inform the High Master that wisdom is always active in this disciple's mind, as I never depart from my essential nature. This itself is the field of blessings. What work would the High Master have me do? Continue. The fifth patriarch replied, what a barbarian! You are very sharp. Say no more. Go to the granary shed in the back and get to work. So I withdrew to a back building where a laborer put me to work, splitting firewood and threshing rice on the hulling pestle. Okay, good, thank you. Okay, so the story continues. The young man stops and he somehow encounters the person who is reciting. Maybe he's waiting for the person to stop. And then he says, what was that? And the person says, Jing Gang Ding, Vajra Sutra. And then I ask him, well, where are you from and where'd you get the sutra? And this kid is the first time he's heard anything Buddhist at all, ever, right? And so the person says, I come from Dongchan Monastery in Qi Province in Huangmei. I've been to Huangmei, and it's the farthest extreme eastern, it's a narrow part of the county, of the province there. And he says, in Huangmei, the fifth patriarch, Master Hongren, teaches there, and he teaches with 1,000 people. And I went to him and I bowed to him, and I met the sutra, the Vajra Sutra, the Diamond Sutra. The great master there tells his monks and his lay people to simply cultivate according to the Diamond Sutra, which is easier said than done, I might add, so that they might by themselves see their essential nature and realize Buddhahood. Okay, first time we've heard the name of Hongren Dashi, who is the fifth patriarch since Bodhidharma, the 27th from the Buddha, and we hear that he is there teaching people, and he's accessible, even though he's got 1,000 disciples. This person who's like wandered far south speaks highly of him, says, I went to bow to him and I got instructions. And he said, Vajra Sutra, Diamond Sutra, this is it. Anybody have the Vajra Sutra in your world, in your Buddhist world? Anybody like recite it, memorize it, copy it out? You recite it sometimes? Okay, Jerry does. Okay, interesting. Yeah, we, maybe I should say me. I haven't pointed people towards the Vajra Sutra, not because I don't like it, esteem it, admire it, bow to it, respect it. And every time I touch the Vajra Sutra, I get a major buzz of good energy from it. I have a book called Jin Gang Jing Ling Yan Lu, Nian Song Jin Gang Jing Ling Yan Lu, something. Magical experiences, magical responses to the Vajra Sutra, which is a book I've always wanted to translate. It's stories about people who have put the Diamond Sutra into their lives and had things happen as a result. Usually they recite it. Sometimes they copy it out by hand, other times they memorize it. And one story, for example, about a merchant who was in the South also and was constantly on boats if you're in southern China, you're on ferry boats a lot 'cause there's lots of water. And his practice was reciting the Vajra Sutra every day. He made a habit of doing that day in, day out. You know, stormy weather, sunny weather, he recited the Vajra Sutra every day and made it that his practice. And he's very faithful. Nothing much happened in his life, but one day he was about to get on the ferry boat, and I don't remember the details, but there's enough stories like it that I'll make it up. But what happened was he something like he left his sutra back in the hotel where he was staying. He's a merchant, right? So he stays in inns, and he ran back to get the sutra and came back to get the ferry boat and discovered it had sunk. The boat had sunk, and because he connected that it was the sutra, that his valuable sutra, he was going to give up his business contacts in favor of the sutra, and he went back and got the sutra and came back and discovered that the boat had sunk, and so he didn't die. Another story right beside it is somebody who recites the sutra all the time, and he shows up in an inn. He's also a merchant, and at night somebody knocks on the door and wakes him up and says, quickly, go downstairs. And he goes downstairs, the stranger's knocked on the door, and he comes back and discovers everybody else on the hall has had their throats slit and had their money taken by bandits who robbed the inn because some stranger knocked on the door and he went downstairs. And the stranger, turns out, nobody ever seen him, and he came out of the air. So he attributes the Vajra Sutra to his rescue, you know. Stories like that, much better than I'm telling them. But the Vajra Sutra is not only powerful as a magical kind of a talisman, but if you're ready for it, it will wake you up to your nature. It's the Sutra of great wisdom, prajna, wisdom. Okay, so Vajra Sutra, and I highly, highly recommend people investigate the Vajra Sutra. So he hears about it, and what happens? He says, I want to go find the Sixth Patriarch, the Fifth Patriarch, the way you did too. So, now, interesting story. The sutra tells us that he took care of his mom before he left. It makes that detail. Notice that? Filial son. The boy decides he wants to wake up too, so I got to go find the Fifth Patriarch, but guess what? He's supporting his mom. Sutra tells us that he wouldn't leave without taking care of his mom. And so some person says, oh, you want to go to Huangmei, Yellow Plums? Okay, I'll give you a travel stipend, right? I'll take care of your mom, you go. So he gets 10 ounces of silver, so his mom is covered. She has her needs met. His filial duties are discharged, he can go. Notice that. I think that's really interesting that the sutra describes that. He made arrangements for his mom. Took him a month of travel. How far can you go in those days in a month? That's how far it was from Lingnan to Huangmei. Took him a month of travel. Look at that. 30 sleeps, probably sleeping rough. Maybe not getting enough food, but he made it. And he arrives in Huangmei at Yellow Plums here at Dongchan Monastery, and he gets to talk to the Fifth Patriarch. Fifth Patriarch's accessible to him. This guy, this young kid, who, as the sutra tells us, doesn't speak Mandarin. Probably speaks Guangdonghua, right? Some dialect, Cantonese. You think he speaks Guanhua, Buhui, Putonghua, Buhui. He speaks a funny Chinese. Probably talks like this, you kind of have an accent so thick you cut it with a knife, He's like, hey, how y'all doing? Y'all come down here. And yeah, well, I come from down in the south. I gather wood. Would you like some wood? I got plenty of wood here. I just got wood chips everywhere, you know. So he's got a funny accent, and they don't know what to make of him, except he's like laughable. And if that's the way people are, if you're different, we laugh at you, you know. So he's an outcast immediately in the monastery. And look at the first exchange. And this is the first dialogue between two very important individuals for the story. One is the high master, the holder of the robe and bowl, the fifth patriarch, and the other person is this kid from the south who talks funny. Patriarch said, oh, you're from the south? You're a barbarian. You probably vote for, what's his name in the White House, right? I won't mention his name. How could you be a Buddha? I replied, key. People may come from the north or come from the south, but there's no north and south in the Buddha nature. Whoa, right? The body of a barbarian and your body, sir, are not the same, but what difference is there in the Buddha nature? Whoa, first of all, this kid is sharp. Second of all, he's like irreverent, right? Who would dare say something so direct to the big guy? You know, he's like, bam. If this was martial arts, he just punched back. He's a counterpunch. Okay, so how about that? What the sutra is showing us is an attitude towards religious authority. Underscore. Right? We're going to talk about that. That's one of our themes this week, and I want the nuns to pay attention here. This is one of the themes that what I see mirrored in our teacher. I see, as I watch Master Hua, he reflected this very same attitude, which is what? Wisdom matters most, not your robe, your age, your authority, your rank. A private can talk back to the general if he has wisdom, when it's a matter of wisdom. Here's the sixth patriarch dissing the newcomer, right? Oh, you're a barbarian. Y'all talking like that. You know, clearly you're nobody. And the sixth patriarch, the future sixth patriarch says, actually, you're discriminating. Hashtag me too, right? Okay, then the fifth patriarch is suddenly, he's like, his ears go up in little sharp points, and he's got here's somebody to pay attention to, which is what we learn he's been looking for, just this kind of person. And what happens, this is China, so as soon as there's something interesting, a crowd gathers, right? 哇，挺有意思哈，他怎么说呢？说，看他，热闹，凑热闹。Good. So, no good, because why? The fifth patriarch has found the person he's looking for. So he got it. Okay, so he says, oh, go to work. You know. Hui Neng wants to, no, he says Hui Neng. He is not Hui Neng yet, but this is the flashback. So the sixth patriarch referring to himself. He says, Shifu, he says, wisdom is alive already in my mind, and I never leave my nature. This is the field of blessings. What would you like me to do? So the future sixth patriarch already knows that he's got something. There was a real change. His roots of goodness came ripe. And so he says, what would you like me to do? And the fifth patriarch is now suddenly, there's a game. The game is on here, right? The game is on, which is to say that the fifth patriarch has got to protect this young one and nurture him without everybody knowing who this So, and there's couple scenes down the road. We have the poetry contest coming up, and the secret code happening, and before we can get to the climactic scene of the game, where the fifth patriarch says, "You're it. You're the one." So he's got to keep him undercover from the competition, which is not a joke. If you have the robe and bowl, you're the king of the world, and you're a target for hitmen, among other things. You can be killed for the robe and bowl. So there's a lot at stake here. So he says, what a barbarian you are. You're very sharp. Don't say anything. Go back and pound rice. Get to work. Okay? Sends him off, but really paying attention to him. And, interesting, look at that. It says, I went to the back where a laborer put me to work splitting firewood, which I could do. I'm a wood gatherer. And threshing rice on the hulling pestle. The hulling pestle, which is a mouthful, still there. If you go to Si Zu Si, not Wu Zu Si, Si Zu Si, in Fourth Patriarch Monastery, you can see the actual thing that the Sixth Patriarch used with his feet. It's a fairly simple foot-driven pestle where you step down, and there's maybe like a gallon bucket size or 10-gallon bucket size depression, and the arm goes down and goes bonk, and it pounds on unhulled rice to separate the hull from the edible part. So you go with your foot, boom, boom, and it goes bonk, bonk. And it's made of wood, and they say the one that's there is a relic of the Tang Dynasty. But it's pretty interesting to see what he used. Okay, so that's our first scene of what comes up next is the poetry slam, the poetry contest. And I was going to do the song called The Robe and Bowl, but we'll wait till we get to the story and then illustrate it with the song. So these stories were collected into a sutra, and the sutra said to be the words of the Buddha, right? And we have the Tripitaka, the three baskets of Buddhist texts, and there's the sutra basket, the commentary basket, and the Vinaya basket. And in the sutra basket, this is one of the very, very, very few that were not spoken by the Buddha. This was spoken by a monk who lived 1,000+ years after the Buddha. But it's still called a sutra because the wisdom is the same. There are, I should tell you this, it's good to know this. There are scholars writing now who will tell you that the whole thing is phony. The Sixth Patriarch was a political creation. There are people who will tell you that it had to do with Tang Dynasty Buddhist politics. And the Niuto, the Ox Head Mountain, was where the actual patriarch power was kept. And okay, some of them are important scholars. John McCrae, the late John McCrae, is one of them. And who's his wife? She's still going. Forgot her name. They have written extensively, big fat books, about how the Sixth Patriarch is not to be believed. And essentially they debunk the existence of the whole sutra. And just I want to tell people about that so that when you get out, if you go into the scholarly world, don't expect everybody to equally agree about this text. Advocating the Sixth Patriarch Sutra as the Buddha's wisdom are such insignificant individuals as Master Hsuanhua, Master Han Shan, Master Xu, and generation after generation of actual Buddhists who cultivate according to it and who also wake up. So sometimes having people shooting at a text is, you could say, proof from the reverse of the value of the text. If it was insignificant, why would anybody bother trying to debunk it? Okay, same thing with the Shurangama Sutra. Same thing with what? Earth Store Bodhisattva Sutra. Same thing with the Brahmanet Sutra. There are people who are vigorously trying to destroy people's faith in the text. So, I have one foot in the scholarly world. I was educated at UC Berkeley with Lou Lancaster for 6 years in the Oriental Language Department, Buddha Studies group, and 10 years at Graduate Theological, UC Berkeley Seminary, studying Buddhism. So I have been exposed to people who devote their profound intelligence and skills to investigating texts like this, and I have deep respect for the accomplishments of those individuals, but sometimes that energy seems to be insensitive to the harm that they cause, as well as interested in some cases interested in the notoriety you get by being naughty. You get famous when you come up with something sensational, and okay, that's human nature. That's good. It's the way we are. So just to let you know that you may pick up a book that says something very different to the approach that we're taking. Okay, it's out there, just to let you know. How? All right, we are now at 10 o'clock, and I'm going to turn to Yuan Lin, and we'll transfer in the evening. We've done this lecture this morning. Ordinarily we would transfer, but that gets to be a lot of transferences, so let's do it at the end of tonight when our second lecture happens.